You're listening to the Outdoors Group podcast. This podcast is a call to arms to get children and young people outside again. It's your one-stop shop for all things outdoor, child, young person and education related. Thanks for tuning in. It's time for something a little bit different today. Today I'm going to hand over the reins as host to our Head of Forest School and Training, Nick Murphy. This is the first in a mini-series within the series in which Nick's going to talk about forest school and schools. Each episode he's going to talk to a different forest school lead who's working in local schools about the realities of this provision. So without further ado, it's over to you, Nick, and to your first guest, Abi Spence.
Thanks, Hannah. Firstly, thank you, Abi, for coming and chatting to us on this lovely sunny day at Exmouth Forest School. So I've chatted to you a little bit about what sort of point of this series of podcasts is, and I'm sure I'm going to chat much more about it, but I'm just really interested in in your perspective on forest school, particularly in schools. So, without further ado, I would like to quiz you a little bit on how you got into forest school, what made you get into forest school, and what your current role is.
Okay, so when I first found out a lot about forest school and became really interested in it, I was probably about 10 years into teaching at that point, and love teaching, absolutely adore it, but was ready to do something extra on top, and started hearing about forest school through Bridgewater College.
Right.
And was lucky enough to go and do my training through Bridgewater, and it was at Paynton Zoo, which is random. Not with all the monkeys, just in a boring classroom, I'm afraid, but did it down at Paynton. Yeah. Did my training down there with a lovely chap, Mr. John Blaney, who was absolutely brilliant.
Right.
Pretty eccentric, but absolutely amazing. Great trainer. So that was quite an intense week, and then got to go and practice at school and complete all our studies, and it was me and my TA Sue at the time, and we just adored it and took it into our school where I worked at the time and got it set up, established our forest school at the end of the school field, and took our year one class out there and took the reception children out there as well, and introduced those children to the idea of forest school and those families to the idea, and it was massively successful. So we kept going. We were given a year, and then we were given another year, and it kept going and kept going. And then my circumstances changed. COVID hit, my job changed, and I went to work in a different school. And post-COVID convinced the head there to give me a little chunk of the school playing field. He said yes, and I said, okay, I'll just show you what's possible, and it won't cost you anything except for my time. And I made good on my promise. I think I spent about 200 quid in total to set it up. Got lots of donations. Luckily, they were taking down the timber trail at the time. So requisitioned lots of very long logs to make a nice fire circle, all sorts of bits and pieces. Parents were brilliant at donating all kinds of stuff, lots of tarps, lots of rope. And that was it. It was very basic. And that was 2.5 years ago, and we're still going, and it's just getting better and better all the time. So
Wow.
Yeah, very proud.
So you managed to repurpose and be resourceful with sort of old materials.
Yeah, because schools don't have any money, and no one pays to come to our school. It's a state primary school, so there just isn't money. So paying for me to do it in the first place is a luxury, because it's, children already have their class teachers. So I promised I would be able to do it on a shoestring, and I have.
And is forest school are you exclusively forest school in the school you're at?
No. So I have done a couple of short-term classroom teaching contracts there in different year groups, and I'm a go-to supply for mainly the younger year groups, and that's good.
Yeah.
So I see almost every child every week at forest school.
That's great. One of our forest school leaders who focuses primarily on schools outreach, he's like the school celebrity in the school he goes to. He wanders through the playground, and because I guess he doesn't have to do any of the sit-downy classroom stuff, he's always Mr. Taylor, who just has a laugh with the kids, and he walks to the playground. Everyone's like, "Hi, Mr. Taylor," and the receptionists love him, the parents love him, but he's exclusively forest school. We contract him in to work there, and loves it. But even in schools where he's not kind of employed by, he's found that he's had to do quite a bit of work to get people to invest in what he's doing and donate him materials and such. And like I say, the budget is often...
It's minimal, and that is one of the biggest challenges we're all facing, whatever education setting you're in. But there is so much that you can do. The tyre centre will give you as many tyres as you like. They've got to pay to get rid of them, so we've got tons of those. Pallets, one of my colleagues' husband could endless supply of wooden pallets. It's really simple stuff, but you've just got to think about it, and... Lots of local businesses are very kind. You just have to approach in the right way. And we did the PTA have been amazing. They did a Blue Tokens campaign through Tesco, so we managed to get £1,000, which was incredible.
Transformative.
It was transformative. A beautiful sandpit for the little ones, some decent knives, so I could do carving. The trouble is, I've got 34 kids, a teaching assistant and me. So I can't sit and carve with every child in 1 hour. It's not going to happen. I might get one if I'm lucky, and that's if I'm not being, well, Miss Spence, help us string this up. I want to do this. We're doing this. So the more one-to-one things, I just don't get round to doing them, and that's one of the biggest problems. Well, it's not a problem. Biggest challenges is. I do sometimes, but more often than not, it's much bigger things. Little lighting fairy fires and scallops, that's fine, because that's a small group. I've got other staff trained up to monitor that. We know what's safe and what's not safe. That's easy. But the really sort of more dangerous things, I quite often just don't get to it.
So is that when you say you invested that in like a sandpit for little ones, is that to give you, or to give them more kind of child-led options so that you can, whilst they're doing so, focus on...
Yeah, that would be... So my training is in early years, that's my degree, and most of my teaching is early years and Key Stage 1. So my classroom would always have what you call continuous provision.
Right.
So if you are working with 1, 4, 10, whatever it is, everybody else has got the things that they love to do, and that's how I've approached my forest school setup. Because I have to, because if I've got 30 plus, there has to be this safe, secure, continuous provision for everybody else while I am introducing, and each week there'll be something. It could be we'll go and find some elder and we'll hollow it out and we'll make some bits and pieces, and they love making necklaces and all this jazz. We've tried whistles and we're all scratching our heads, how can we improve it? But there's always something. It's never compulsory. So if you want to go and play in the mud kitchen week after week after week and you're 6 years old, go and do it. That's fine, because you've been sitting on the carpet listening all day. So actually, from 2:30 to 3:30, when it's your forest school session, if you need to go and create, the stuff the food I get made in there is something else, I tell you, is amazing. But you'll watch, so, inevitably the little ones absolutely love the mud kitchen, they love the sandpit. But then you watch the older ones and you've got 10-year-old boys saying, I've made you a cake. Yeah. And they're doing things that they wouldn't dream of doing normally, because they can't really... Why would I be doing that? But they'll change, and there's a group of boys I've got at the moment, and they've got this chocolate factory, and week on week they're digging out this massive pit and they're making all this array of sort of tray bakes and all sorts, and it's happening for them. They're 9 and 10-year-old boys. That's what they need to be doing, and that's what they're allowed to do. And that's my continuous provision for them, because all children need that.
Yeah, I'm glad you made a comment about that's what they need to be doing. And I think that's one thing that I often look at with any group of kids, whatever age. If they are taking part in something, they're engaged and they're happy, it tends to be because they found the thing that they need to be doing. Yeah. Give me a quick idea of what your setting, like what it looks like. What would I find if I walked into your
So you'd walk up the field, away from the buildings, up the school playing field, and on your left there's a few broadleaf trees that provides a nice shady spot. Generally on that side there's a lot of den building, so lots of pallets, tarps. ropes which I'll put up for them, but I have to take them down at the end of every session because of the accessibility of our field. On the other side, there's some willow trees, a massive tractor tyre. That's a popular, especially with the older ones, they just need to sit and chat. They just need to for a bit. That's on that right-hand side. And then in the middle, you've got my kind of fire circle area, but the requisition blocks are low to the ground. So when the older ones are there, they're sitting like that. Not super comfy, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers. And so we've got our fire circle area, and then there's a lovely hedge at the back, and the mud kitchen zone is there, sandpit to the right, and they can build, there's a couple of apple trees as well, so in the autumn that's lovely, we get the apple turner out and do spiral apple, so, yeah, that's lovely. And then there's lots of things, lots of tyres, lots of den building equipment which they can move and drag wherever they want, but they'll always know there's a rope, so if it's the other side of the rope you have to pack it away, because the school field is used at playtime. So that's what you would see. And then there's my shed, my stuff in it. And
do you let anyone else in your shed?
No. I was saying to Hannah before, I finally got my own shed and it's mine.
You know where everything is.
It's a big primary school.
Right.
So in there are the tools, the bow saws, and there's always some paints and paper, usually scrap paper, requisitions, don't need perfect paper, wool if they want to do some Nordic slinging, all the stuff is in there, and they've all been coming to me for 2 years. They know exactly what's available and they'll come and ask.
Brilliant.
If it's not out,
sounds like a great space. So what do you think are the benefits of running forest school sessions in mainstream primary schools? What just your observations on that?
If you're teaching children in a classroom, and believe me, I love teaching. I came to teaching in my late 20s and I love my job. I always have done. All children deserve to be receiving a decent education. It doesn't matter what their background is. But if you are a classroom teacher, you are under a lot of pressure to achieve certain things and to obtain certain things from the class that you teach. And you're also battling with all sorts of stuff depending on the class you've got. So you don't see, especially with the older ones, the child-led, the problem solving. You are teaching, instructing. You'll see a lot less of the children showing you. And that's where forest school is brilliant, because even PE, great, really valuable, really important, but still you're learning how to play a game or how to do something. The conversations I've had with children and their teachers have had with their classes when they're sitting, whittling, Nordic slinging, doesn't matter what it is, because you're doing something else, a lot comes out. So it's on a emotional level for personal growth for the children. It's really, really valuable. It's really valuable for the teachers because they'll see things. So quite often you hear teachers saying when they come back from a residential, so they take the children to Escott or wherever they're going, and they have this incredible couple of days with them. I saw this different side to this child, I saw a different side to that child, and that's what you can get. It's only a snapshot, it's 1 hour, it's not much, but you will get it. And for a teacher, it's a huge luxury to be somewhere with your class and just stand back and watch, because you're not, they're giving you so much. So I think it's really valuable for teaching staff. And all where I am now, working now, all the teaching staff and all the TAs are so supportive of forest school.
And are they teaching staff present whilst the kids are engaging in forest school?
Totally varies. Usually, but not always. Sometimes other stuff's going on. But there's always somebody with me. I'm never on my own, ever. But they're usually there, and it's important that they are, because they see a different side to their cohort.
Just this morning on the been assisting with the training, level 3 training this morning, and there's on the course is an educational psychologist who was talking about the just how people's ability to learn will change depending on the environment that they're in. And she was talking about one learner in particular she worked with who was apparently struggling to hold on to sort of memory sequence and being able to retain information. Brought outside the classroom though into a wooded environment with less demand and less expectation to sort of sit and sort of stare at the front and pay attention all day, and all of a sudden turns out the kid's got a fantastic ability to retain information if it goes in a setting that he's more comfortable with. And I think that's often something we see with forest schools, particularly when teachers come along, is that other side. And like you say, I think it's so important for people to see, even if it's just a snippet of how they might be able to tweak their practice in the classroom to suit the needs of the individual. Amazing.
Yeah. And when you're up against it with a huge, some of these class sizes, they're 34, 36.
Yeah, it's a lot of kids.
And they're big kids.
Yeah.
This is year 4, 5, 6. That's a lot of older children.
Yeah.
That is hard. So your ability rate, you're trying to look after everybody. One of the things that I learned, one of the first things I was told when I did my training was it's all about self-esteem. It's all about a child's self-esteem. So if that's at rock bottom, forget it. So start with that and then you're building up from there, which is why the way I was taught, and I know that everybody does things differently, but I was taught everything you do is 80% achievable and 20% a challenge for whichever child you're working with. And I do remind myself of that all the time. And sometimes it's a bit easier, but if you're setting someone up to not get it right in the first place, then how mean is that? How do we feel as an adult, you've got to put yourself in their shoes, and it's I just think it's a really valuable part of school, and thank God I've got such a supportive group of people employing me that are allowing me to do it.
It's lovely to hear, and we haven't actually spoke about it, but if you're happy for us to mention who you work for, we'll put a plug in.
Yes. Absolutely. I work at St Peter's Primary School in Budleigh.
Marvellous.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we've had them up.
Further afield listeners, that's Budleigh Salterton.
Budleigh Salterton, sorry.
Yeah. And it's a stone. It's not too far from this where we're sat now, is it? It's 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Walk?
Yeah, not far. 5-10 minutes on a bike. Well, depends if you're going down. Yeah, I was. Get off my bike and push every so often. And lots and lots of the children at school come here. They come here for parties. They come here for all sorts, and they'll always talk to me about it. And we talk about forest school here compared to our forest school at school, and you've got 10 times the space, 10 times the trees, and but the children know, this is a very different environment to the one at school, but still count themselves lucky that we've got all this so close to us.
We've talked a little bit about. We've mentioned challenges, but what would you say are some of the main challenges that you face in facilitating forest school within a primary school setting?
I think it's group size. So I touched on that before. Size of the groups that are coming up, and I'm the only person trained in forest school of any kind at school. It's absolutely fine because the rest of the staff are fab and really on board, and you just go back over a few little bits and pieces and safety rules, and they will all reiterate that to the children as well. So they've just been
having that consistency,
absolutely brilliant, golden. But the sheer size of it, but you can't have your cake and eat it. And one of my things I really wanted when I spoke to Steve Hitchcock, the head at my school, about setting it up, I said this has to be for everybody, because all children deserve to be able to come and do this.
What's the flip side of that though? When you say it's for everyone, what if it's not for everyone?
Then who do you take? Why? So do you take? So you could say, well, children who are having real challenging behaviour, do them good get up to forest school? Would it? would it be better if they all come together, and then is that the best way for me to do it, or is it better for them to see positive behaviour, positive play, others modelling? This is a good way to go about it. When things go wrong, your den falls down or it starts raining, you've got to have those characters there who are going to go, it's all right, isn't it, Miss Spence? Come on, we've got this, we can handle it. And you go, right, what should we do? It's pouring. We're going to make a den and it's going to be big enough for everybody. And you've got to have those characters there that are really going to spur everybody else on. It's one of me, and you do feel like, wow, I'm on my own, but I've got the support of so many other people. Believe me, I'd love to have little groups of 10 and be doing all this lovely stuff. I don't want anyone to be excluded, so I can't have it both ways.
I'm interested in also what sort of time frame you would have children out. So you've got a class of 30 plus potentially.
Yeah.
How long a session might you give them in schools?
It's usually an hour.
Right.
So we've tried lots of different things, and we've done it for longer, we've done it for shorter. The foundation stage is a little bit different, but the other classes, everybody gets approx an hour, sometimes an hour and 10 minutes. It's long enough, and the children, because it's part of school and they're so kind of in this cycle, most things are about 45 minutes to an hour. It works. It's not a massive space, so they kind of go, if you keep going for about an hour and a half, it just doesn't quite work. So we kind of, through trial and error, have got it to that stage. It also means the shorter the sessions, the more children I can see each week. Is it everyone? Yeah, it's everyone bar the older two classes at the moment, but they've got other summary stuff going on anyway. So
day, how many classes would you like today?
4.
Yeah.
So
tidy up.
That's a lot, isn't it? Like how do you feel at the end of the day?
Quite tired. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
So I just think it's so important for them, and it is tiring, but they are so good because we stop, 10-minute warning, then it's time to clear things up and pack away, and we'll talk about some stuff has to go away, some doesn't. You can leave that for the next group. Often the older children will be in the morning and they'll build these dens, and they say, can we leave it for the little ones? What do you think they'll like to play? How nice is that?
Lovely, yeah.
Isn't that how they should be thinking about the younger ones in the school, taking care of them? And we have all sorts of things like that at school. We have this lovely buddy system with the older and the younger ones, but that's just carrying through that feeling of just looking after one another.
It's that community, isn't it? We've done a lot of thinking about what forest school looks like and what it should be, what's important, and at the heart of everything has come down to it. It's about your community, and the better sort of examples and role models we can get into the little ones as well as the big ones, because sometimes the big ones, the older kids, go through phases where they don't quite know where their place is within it, and it's a really good way of sort of pulling them back in and giving them a massive communal hug.
And that's quite hard. It is hard for them. The year 6s at the moment, it's a funny time. They know they've done their exam. Those exams are important, and they've done all this, and then it's a really funny time because they're waiting for a big change in their life. And
they're coming from the top of a school where they've got completely used to, and they're about to go into the setting where they're the small fish in a big pond. Just an outdoor environment with someone who's investing in them as individuals, giving them space and letting them be heard, can sometimes be all it takes.
And it's letting them be heard, all of them, all ages, but particularly the older one, they just need that time. And inevitably, if they are sort of sidetracked by doing, those chats will happen, those conversations happen.
Is there, do you have a rhythm to each of your sessions? Are they all different? Like, do you do certain things at the beginning of each one, or...?
Often we'll do parachute games. but with a top. It's really in bad shape now. I was thinking about it the other day. It's all frayed and like really falling apart.
To the PTA coming on.
Yes. Yeah. I just need one it's really big. It was a donation. It's really big. But a parachute game is a lovely way to start. We'll sometimes sing bungalow. The older ones absolutely love that because it's a chance to show off and do their moves. Bungalow, that song, and this is how I show us how you bungalow, and they have to do it. I'm not going to sing it because I'm a terrible singer. I'll sing it to you when we're not recording. But they have a chance. You'll pick one of them, and they have to show you a cool move, and so they like the older ones like that, and there's a chance to show off, and you'll have to copy it. Yeah, it's good fun. And so usually something together, just for a few minutes. The younger ones, the foundation stage unit, so we have a nursery class at our school and reception, so it's one big unit and it's fabulous, it's lovely. They all come together on a Friday afternoon and they're there for most of the afternoon, so that's the longer extended, and it's a nice way for the little ones to end the week because you're 4 or 5 years old, they're just gone. Yeah. So that's lovely. But the nursery children leave a little bit earlier, so quite often we'll just fab TA who helps me. Big shout out to her, she's fab. So we'll come together. The reception will come together, and we'll perhaps do a few tarp games. And what did we do Friday? Sleeping night. I said we're all going to lie down, just really quietly. He who can be the most still. Just little things like that. If you feel like things are going a bit kind of crazy and Friday afternoon can be quite hard, just something that pulls everyone together. 5-10 minutes, all it needs, off you go again. But things do look very different. To answer your actual question, things do look really different because it's different year groups. So depending on who they are, I've got a crew, lots of different children in different year groups, and every week, can I light the fire? They're desperate, and I generally don't have it going unless we're going to actually do something with it, because then I can't
I suppose in hour-long sessions, there's no big requirement to have it going.
No.
You're not like boiling the kettle.
This is it. And if the fire's going, I'm stuck. I can't go and do anything else.
Do you find you've got like a focal point there? Because I look at our sites and the fire is always the sort of focal point. What would you say? I suppose, are you the focal point?
Yes, I'm getting bored. There's only one of me. But the fire circle definitely is, and we'll often start there, unless we've started by singing or parachute games. And in that space, because the fire's not usually going, there's a couple of sort of flat pallets where there's stuff going on, and whatever activity is going on for that session, that will generally be there in the middle. We do start there. A quick demo of whatever it is, even if it's just whittling. Then it's that quick reminder, glove on the hand that's holding it, and they're remember that, and they're well away. But it's the focal point. We come back there at the end.
What would you say the main rewards are from forest school sessions within school that you run? So this is what rewards do the staff get, and what rewards do the kids get? We spoke a little bit earlier about the staff having the ability to see a different side to the children that they might not see within the sort of indoor lesson setting. But what are your thoughts on?
It's definitely one of the biggest rewards is seeing that other side, seeing other things shine. And you'll quite often find those quiet children that they're perfectly able but don't vocalise in class, and they're the ones who, if you set a little challenge for we're going to get a hula hoop and build a circus for Mini Beast or something, and they're going, I've got an idea, and they're the one leading the group. Or sometimes I get them to get lots of sticks and you play giant noughts and crosses with you have to have 8 children, and they can talk the first time, and then they can't say it, they've got to do it silently. And you'll often find, coming out of the woodwork, these children that perhaps wouldn't have the confidence to speak up in class, but they know how to play noughts and crosses really, really well, and they get that chance. Just like on sports day, can't do well at school, can run like a bullet. Yeah, it's that chance, isn't it?
It's like their
to
time
shine.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, and that's fine. That's how it
Yeah.
should be. Everybody deserves that, and there's not always a place for it.
Yeah. And so they pick up on the sort of confidence boost from that.
Yeah.
And again, back to a sense of place within their community and a sort of value in them being just good at that thing.
Self-esteem.
That they can, yeah. Sorry, we're a bit distracted. We've just seen a robin who's just come to perch on our
to
fire
chip in.
pit.
Getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
Braver and braver. We're not digging. They normally follow you when you're digging, don't they?
If I was to ask one of the kids at your school what rewards they get from forest school, what do you think they would say?
A lot of them would say, I get to go and get muddy.
Yeah.
And they really like it. And they've been brilliant, and the parents have just been so patient with me, because believe me, some days you just think, I just hang my head, I walk across the playground, I just can't make eye contact with them in the winter. This winter was unbelievable.
Been a long old winter, isn't it?
It's just been absurd, and I get them lined up, and I have to hose them off because especially the little ones, because they're just right in there, absolutely caked. But the parents have been amazing. Waterproof jackets, welly boots, and if you're dressed for it, then why not?
Yeah.
Why not do it? So they do like getting very muddy, and they do like their dens. They love it. Boys and girls. That space, it's ours. It's enclosed. Yeah.
Again, it's like meeting them one of their needs. We had a really good conversation this morning about the different kind of dens that people will build for different reasons, and I always have an approach. If someone's built a den and I'm approaching it, I kind of almost like whistle as I'm coming up to it, just to let them know that I'm approaching, because it's like their house for the time being. You don't want to just burst in.
Yeah. It does become like that, and they'll rebuild, and they'll sometimes say, can you leave it for next week? I can't, because you've got 10 other groups coming up, so I can't leave it, but you can make it again. Yeah. You'll remember, you know what you did, you and your crew that you worked with, you can do it again, and then you can change it. I wonder what you could do differently. Yeah. Could you use this? Could you use that? There was a group of girls, reception girls, and I'm going to remind them this week, now I think about it, they used to get me to make a carriage for them. It was brilliant. So it's a couple of pallets and tarps, and they had all this stuff, and they'd pick flowers for it. But they got the tyres, and they'd put one flat and then one kind of sort of upright sitting in it, and that was their horses. And they'd sit,
amazing.
And they had their horse and carriage. Awesome. They were happy. They were completely happy. Yeah.
Creative.
But they tell stories to each other. That was their fairy tale. They would retell these stories, and that for them, they were getting so much out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They planned it. They thought about it.
What a world to be. I'd love to be able to sort of swap brains for a bit when they're in that zone and just feel what it's like. But you definitely get a different creative side out of folks when you bring them outdoors. One thing that one teacher I spoke to a while ago was saying, and it's come up a couple of times actually, I can remember, was that they were surprised at some of the relationships that developed in a forest school setting, and this was both, they've reflected on it in our woodland here, as well as when they're doing stuff in their own setting, in what sounds like a similar setup to what you've got.
Right.
And some of the kind of typical pairs of mates that they've got in the classroom, some of which are just wonderful, and some of which potentially cause teachers stress at sometimes. And they're saying taking them out into a forest school setting where your expectation and your aims are slightly tweaked, and they come out in relationships and friendships that they wouldn't necessarily expect to see in the classroom.
I would agree with that, absolutely.
Why is that?
I think because it's freer, and the end goal doesn't exist. There is no end goal. There is nothing in my sessions. There's nothing that you have to do other than be respectful of the environment and one another. So there's no right or wrong. So that freedom just changes the way that they'll interact with each other and the way they approach what they're doing. So you do see lots of different groupings happening, and they'll find one another just quite subtly sometimes. So I remember watching a group, it was a group of year 4 children, and the sandpit was open, and there's these little figures in there, and no one was really there. It tends to be the younger children that will gravitate towards it. No one was there, and then slowly, suddenly there was a group of 4 of them, and they were boys, and they weren't boys that would normally play. Oh my God, you couldn't get them out of it. The whole hour, and they were so happy. They didn't stop talking to each other. I don't know what they were talking about. I eavesdropped a couple of times, but I couldn't understand because it was this game that was going on. They were so engrossed, and they found one another. Those friendships have developed since, but it's having, wherever you've been sat in a classroom, or whoever your family is friends with outside of school, whoever you do football with, or same swimming group, you'll naturally feel like you're meant to be with those people. But it gives them much that freedom to explore. Some children just like to be solitary too, and that's really important as well to understand that. Some of them just need to go and sit for a few minutes. I've always got magnifying glasses, bug hunting books as well, unless it's very, very wet. You want to read a book under a tree? Go for it. Why not? Why shouldn't you be allowed to do that if that's what you feel like you need to do, and then come back and you'll feel ready to do something else? Yeah.
That's a lovely approach to it, I think, and we have hammocks dotted around, and there have been times where kids have come along, and we will have a check-in in the morning, and with as little kind of demand as possible. If people want to say how they're feeling about life, then they've got somewhere they can do it. If they don't really want to say a thing, then that's fine also, but you'll find that there are times where kids will appear to be a little bit tired. They might have had a late night, or they might have been up early, or they just might be the end of the week and they just had a busy week, and they'll take themselves off into a hammock and have a snooze for half an hour. And remember the first time it happened, I thought, God, your parents are paying us to look after you and give you this experience, but this is what you need right now, and to have the ability and awareness to do that off their own back, I think it's applaudable.
Absolutely, it's knowing what you need, because sleep, if you really needed to sleep that badly, you'd be feeling pretty scratchy otherwise, and the enjoyment wouldn't be the same. I think that's amazing. I need more hammocks.
I've got some hammocks you can have. I've got a couple of hammocks I can donate if you want.
Putting them up and taking them down, that's my constant. I can't leave anything up.
Do in half an hour before the next class.
Well, you just reflect a little bit about aims of your sessions, and it sounds to me like the sessions you have, you don't have sort of specific aims as such. You try and keep that kind of freedom of choice and ability to go with what the session. But that doesn't work for me. My question is...
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's lovely to hear. But I want to talk about broaden it more. So what do you think the aims of Forest School... So there must be aims of your school to have put Forest School in place. So, and I think this is something that differs from school to school. So what do you think the aims of the school are in having you allow or facilitate Forest School for them?
In the beginning at this school, it was restorative work really, because it was post-COVID. So we were able to use those sessions for children to start to re-socialise. So it was quite a shock once all restrictions were eased, schools were back open, for these children to come back into a school environment, because loads of them hadn't been anywhere near it for a long time. Some were, obviously, if they had key worker parents, but even then it was not necessarily every day, and it was
quite
really
a different
patchy.
Scenario, wasn't it? To
very different. So those first few weeks, I had children coming to me with muddy hands saying, I need to wash my hands. I've got to wash my hands. And I said, why? What's happened? They're muddy, they're dirty, there's germs all over them. So we were having to explain to them that they didn't need to wash their hands. by having mud on your hands, you weren't then going to go around spreading COVID. So that's how far down that road. And I don't, not just our school, nationally, we had gone. Understandably, I'm not saying, that that's wrong, but that's where we were. So in the beginning, it was very much that process of get the children back in, get them working in groups, re-establish their classes. They'd all moved classes, new teachers, bonding, everybody back together, working out how to work as a group, function as this big animal that is a class within a bigger animal that's a school. And then it just kept going, and every sort of term or so, we'd get the green light to keep going with it. So we could do more and more, and I could build up more and more and more. And so I've been able to bring in bits of the curriculum. So I'll say to the teachers, some staff just want forest school. That's it, out, play. They need pressure, release. The older ones, when it's work, they've just got to go and build or saw things. I had some of them using an axe last year as well. They just needed to have a good it's really, that's again hard because it's just, but you can do it. Some of them, some teachers, we're doing pollination. Have you got a game we could do? Could we do something? We're learning about plants. Can we dig up a few weeds, have a look at the roots? Absolutely, it's brilliant. It's a golden opportunity. Last week we had looked a lot at mini beasts and see what we could find, and we found some amazing stuff. We've got a big cable reel that they use as a table in the mud kitchen. I'm going completely off track again, sorry. Just so excited about it. We lifted it up, and underneath is this enormous ant's nest, and there's this all the eggs and these tracks and trails. They're these little corridors of mud. They were fascinated, and all these ants are getting really cross and kind of
moving their eggs
running around, frantically moving their eggs. So we looked for a bit and put it back. But you're bringing so much, all of that. They're learning so much, and they're all saying, well, when I go home, I'm going to go and find out, or see if I can find out more about this. Can I find out more about that? So, and they'll be doing that with all the teaching that's happening in class as well, don't get me wrong, but it's being able to bring those things to life, and I think that's what's carried us through. Yes, in the beginning, restorative, bonding, pulling us back together, don't be scared of getting mucky, get outside, fresh air. And when I started in January, and it was freezing cold, muddy, dark, the most dreary time of year to start this new venture that I was so excited about. But they were brilliant. They were really good. And it's embedded. Let's hope it stays that way.
Amazing.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you absolutely did.
Kind of did.
You absolutely did. I think the thing that I often hear is we get a reasonable amount of inquiries from schools wanting to look into forest school provision, and we work with a number of schools at present delivering forest schools, some of which we've been doing so for, I think, 4 years. I think we've had one school that's had us every week and there is a huge variety in what people want. Some people want the freedom, and they want it as a bit of respite, and they're looking at it as absolutely positive, emotional, social time for developing that side of them that the curriculum doesn't always focus on. Others have been very specific about we're looking for someone to focus on these particular points of the curriculum, whether it's art, history. And I don't really know where I sit with it. I think from what you said, your approach of being able to draw on things when they come up and then link them to curriculum is what needs to be done. I think if it becomes too prescriptive, then you miss out on all the stuff that comes in from the left and right.
Soft skills.
You're just driving forward for one specific aim and missing all of the other aims that...
I could plan my whole year forest guys say, right, this week we're going to do fires, and this week we'll do this, and the next week we'll do that. It won't work. It will not work, because one week I'll have gone off onto the common and collected billions of pine cones, and then so it turns out what we're actually doing is creating pine cone creatures, and then we're building houses for them, and then we're going to leave them out overnight, and did they get wet or not? And you just can't. it doesn't work like that. When I'm planning classroom stuff, maths, a geography unit, you do, because you've got to cover certain things, but it just has to be more organic than that. And luckily, that's generally how my kind of mind works. There's always a plan, it's always there, but the minute you start trying to draw it in and get it on paper and stick to this and tick things off and did they achieve, and that doesn't sit well with me. For me, it might sit well elsewhere, but I just can't go into a sort of box ticking exercise, because I think we're doing enough of that already for our children. We're doing plenty of it. So if a teacher approaches me and says, I've got this thing in science, we're doing magnets and they need to make compasses, is that something with needles? Is that something? Yeah, of course we can do that at Forest School, dead easy. We were doing weather, was one of the topics, geography topics. It's brilliant to do up there. If you've got a windy day, you can make little telltales with, there's all kinds of things you can do. And it's much nicer to do these things hands-on generally. But yeah, for me, it wouldn't work becoming very rigid and structured. I'd find that very difficult.
Do you have to evidence anything for the sessions that you've done?
No. I try to take lots of pictures. I'm rubbish at remembering to take pictures because I should be taking a lot more. The teachers are very good at taking pictures, so they can put them on their class pages and things like that, and that's lovely communication with the parents. But no, we don't. It's all anecdotal. And that's really tricky, because it's lucky for me, I'm supported with that by my senior leadership team, and they understand it. They understand me, and they understand what I'm trying to do and what I am doing. But you can't put numbers on these things, and it is all anecdotal. So, got an anecdote for you.
Go on.
Child who's now in year 5, last year he said to me, he struggles a bit socially, perfectly all right, happy, just struggles a bit socially, but he said to me, and with failure, what's the best thing that's ever happened to you at Forest School? Best thing you've ever done? That's really literally impossible, because I love everything I do. I said one of the best things was watching you using a steel and trying to light a fire for about 15 minutes. You didn't give up, you never stopped trying, and then watching your face when it worked. That's one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because you showed me you could keep going, but more importantly, you showed yourself that you were going to keep going till you did it. And then you can't get it off him now. Can I do another one? But how do you give that a number, put it in a box?
And the knock-on effect of something like that is...
How did he feel then?
Yeah, absolutely.
How did he... Where was he at that point when that worked? Where was... Yeah. You can't put a number on that.
One of the things that's I often find sort of sad to observe or difficult to do is when people aren't willing to engage with something or try something for fear of failure. And it's easier not to try than... And I completely get it. I get where it comes from, and I understand how the sort of mix of emotions that the kids themselves must be feeling in that moment where they're faced with that. Do I do this, or do I act like I don't care and don't want to do it? And it's you've got to play a bit of games with it to kind of get people in that space where they're emotionally safe enough to go, do you know what, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And then to do exactly what you've just mentioned, witness that sort of sense of like, I've done it. And
it's a eureka moment, isn't it?
Yeah. And I never want to become complacent to that, because I think, you do this sort of stuff so often that to you it becomes a regular part of your day-to-day, and you've got to keep reminding yourself that for the learners and the kids and the adults that are doing training or whatever, these things are really big. And
they're massive,
really
and they're new.
Yeah.
They're new to them too, and doing anything for the first time is, this is new, and it's a whole load of pathways I haven't kind of made yet in my mind. So it is really important to keep remembering that they haven't done it, and perhaps it's the first time of getting your hands really dirty, or the first time lighting fire. It's still new.
So I was going to ask you about what your favourite thing about your job is, and you just mentioned you just kind of done it.
Yeah.
Is that the thing that does it for you? Is seeing these little moments that are actually really big moments, and where they lead.
And it's remembering those firsts for all those children. If it's the first time they've been successful with something, just how significant that is for them. The word teacher is in loco parentis. You are the most important adult at that moment for them. So you should never, ever underestimate what you say and do, the impact of what you say and do in a school day. If the only interaction you have with any given child that day is, oh, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything to you because you've had to say, oh, stop doing that to so many people. But they're going to go away, possibly not caring, but they might also go away thinking, oh, God, she doesn't like me. She doesn't like me. Yeah.
And
we are in a privileged position and we mustn't forget it.
Absolutely. Yeah. One kid stood out to me as you said that. I have from my early forest school days when I was running sessions. I won't say which session, but there's one child whose standard question was, "Can I do this or no?" And whatever it was always followed by "or no." And it pans out that there was a lot of kind of fairly negative talk towards this one kid from in other areas of her life, and she was just so curious and wanted to do all the things, but all the things sometimes were possibly viewed as inconvenient to others, and so she had there was a real stigma attached to her asking permission. Our job became to say yes to absolutely everything, right? Provided it was safe and achievable. It was just to say yes, and where the cases were where it wasn't we weren't able to facilitate something, or there was a real reason why one of her requests might not be possible. Then to get the conversation going about well, I've said no, but this is the reasons for it, and actually better still, can you tell me the reasons for it? And it completely changed around to the point where the things that she was asking for were they stopped being or no. It was always like, if it's all right, I'm going to do this, and it's like, yes, this is fine, let's do it, and being excited and coming alongside her to do those things with her. It was. And
that will have changed her approach to everything.
I really hope so. Yeah. Lovely moments though. What's your views on the future of Forest School within the school environment? Mainstream school. What do you think the future holds?
In general, or mine in particular?
Both.
Both. Okay. Yeah. So, mine in particular. Long may it last. Basically, I just love it, and I'm very proud of what I've done so far. But there's a lot more to do. In general, I think that there's been quite a mushroom of Forest School. It's suddenly we all heard about it, we knew about it, we were all getting involved. Lots of stuff going on. I just hope it stays that way because it's so important and becomes truly embedded. But I also hope that it doesn't turn into a curriculum-based tick boxing. So we've got all these things at our school, including a forest school, and when we're there, we do tick tick. So I hope it stays all about the self-esteem and all about what the children need at that time, and the freedom, and because you're outside, so you've got a golden opportunity to respond to the weather, the seasons, what's happening. We've got beans growing now, we've got potatoes, the strawberries have finally come through. It's exciting, and there's lots of children that don't do any gardening at home. They live in flats, they've never done any before. They had loads of bulbs growing. You've got to keep letting them have these experiences because some of them just simply don't. That's the way it is. We're not going to change that. We're not going to change anything. It's how it is. But what we can do is give them the opportunities at school and getting back in touch with the natural world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's been really lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
You're clearly someone who's incredibly passionate about what they're doing, and it is infectious. Like when you meet folks who are so behind what they're doing, and you strike me as also having like a real confidence about what you do, which is really a massive quality when you're working within a system where sometimes you are going to have to articulate in just the way that you have done, like what the point is, and what you're doing. So I really hope you continue to really fly the Forest School flag within your school.
I am so massive. I am a confident person, and I've got a real belief in what I'm doing. But I am also massively supported by everyone else there, and that's
a huge difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
If I wasn't, it's really disheartening actually. If you've got people kind of shrugging and saying, "What's the point?" Then that's really tough. But I've got staff and colleagues, parents. All of them have just been so brilliant. So
You've
lucky
created
me
that
that I've it's been lovely, and we get parents in to help sometimes too. We do
Really?
mystery helper, and that's lovely.
Mystery helper.
Yeah, so they can.
Love it.
I must redo it actually, but they can just sign up, and then their children don't know they're coming, and they're coming help,
nice.
and it's just bringing
And
the
then their
parents in
can
too.
see the differences and see that other side to their kids.
And that's how school should be. We've locked heads somehow. It's all gone a bit fragmented, and actually that's how it should be. Parents should be able to feel they can come in and join in with what we're doing, because it's a magical time with their children. So.
Thank you, Nick, so much for facilitating that conversation, and thanks, Abi, for joining us. I've really
My
enjoyed
pleasure.
listening to the two of you. But for the sake of continuity, I'm jumping back in to finish up. I think you guys are laughing at me now. It's because I like the word continuity.
I never guessed.
Jumping back in to finish up the way we always do. So we ask everyone 3 questions at the end. So my first question for you is, how do you relax?
Swimming. Spending time at the beach.
Nice.
Swimming. Some of the time.
Sea swimming?
Yes.
Yeah. Lovely. Awesome. And what are you reading or listening to right now?
Well, I wrote down the author. The book is called Pony, and it's by someone called R.J. Palacio. It's a book my daughter read. She's horse crazy, and I think it's going to be a really interesting story, but I've only just started it, so...
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. Is it young adult fiction? Or?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, sweet. And finally, why is being outdoors important to you?
Because I did write this one down, so I didn't forget. My classroom at school, it's different every single day. Carpet's different, the walls are different, the ceiling's different every single day. So that makes you just think and work that a little bit harder.
Yeah. Awesome. Brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Nick, and thank you, Abi.
Thank you both.
A massive thank you to Nick for being the host of that podcast episode, and to Abi for coming after she'd finished a busy day in the woods to talk to us about her work running Forest School sessions in a local primary school. I really enjoyed listening to their conversation, and I hope that you did too. As I mentioned, that was the first in a mini-series that Nick's going to be doing, so watch out for a couple more of those episodes popping up over the next couple of months. If you like the podcast, as always, we'd love it if you would subscribe, rate it, share it with all your friends, just so that more people can find us. We'll be back in a fortnight with another episode, but until then, thanks for listening.